Morning. You know, in all honesty, Falco, I bet you get more of those, hey, can you stream our tournament than we do at IPL. I won't spoil anything. We do get some of those, but we don't get any from, like, we don't get any requests from, like, smaller tournaments. We do get requests from some bigger stuff. I mean, I think that's how we got the send-out finals on IPL. Which, by the way, didn't somebody suggest to send out that, like, hey, you should probably do more production stuff with the send-out finals? And it's like, it's on IPL. And I think Dapples traditionally does, like, the other events, right? Like, doesn't Dapples do In the Zone or Picnic and stuff like that? Send-out is working with us. Z! Good old Z. Was it plural now? Why didn't you just call yourself Zonic25? That's what I did. There can't be 25 Zonics out there. There are Zoinks. I'm not 25. But it's not about age. Doofus. God, I'm going to be 35 this year. I'm going to be 35 next month. What am I doing talking about Splatoon? How much, genuinely, how much longer do you guys think I can pull this off? Like, you think I could have a podcast like this in my 40s? Or will, like, the government step in and be like, you can't do that anymore? I got 2 more years left in me. I think that's fair. I think I got 2 more years. Like, there has to be a point. Popgun, you're already at that point. But there has to be a point where it's like, you're too old to be doing this. Whatever this is. Being awesome. At age 4 and 3? Yeah. Yeah, you know what? At the rate our government's going, the 13-year-old age limit's probably going to be gone, too. Like, that's halting our progress. Let 4-year-olds get on the internet. Man. I see a lot of people in chat who probably aren't going to be feeling comfortable after I get through reading all this. Just saying. It's going to be a fun episode. Uh-oh. So I saw what a lot of you said yesterday. And I was like, oh gosh. I'm glad you're all here. Try to stick around to the end of the episode. And try not to take anything personal. I love all of you, despite your stupid ideas. I need to finish. I need a topic to talk about after I do my opening. Before I talk about low ink. What should I talk about before that? I haven't finished writing this yet. Oh. Talk about Ludi? Of course I'm going to talk about Ludi. You think I wouldn't talk about Ludi? I've been talking about Ludi literally every single week. The Ludi's been going on. You think? There's like 20 different ways I could go, Hammy. You have no idea. Honestly, I did not go to bed till like 3 o'clock last night. Well, actually, I laid down. It was just one of those nights where like you just can't turn your brain off for whatever reason. But I was like, I'm not watching this. I'm not going to watch. Oh. I got to... I'll save it for the Popcast when we go live. Not right now, but there is a... As I was watching... Or as I saw who was playing in Div 10... I was just like, how the hell did the Inkvaders end up in Div 10? Like, I don't even remember them signing up. There is a hilarious, unfortunate reason why the Inkvaders ended up in Div 10. And I can't wait to share the story of how that happened. There's a little teaser coming down the right. But I legit did not even realize the Inkvaders were playing until they were in Div 10 finals. And I seeded the damn thing. So. We could talk about the Pacers, I guess. Anyways, how are you guys doing today? I don't really care, but I mean, I want you to feel like you have a forum to kind of like express. Well, I'm feeling great. Well, I'm not feeling good. You know. A 20-game 8s session. I don't. 20-game 8s. What are you talking about? All maps? Oh. Like those in-house scrims we used to do back when we had like 20 players on Destiny troops. And then made sure that like Z and Haya didn't end up on the same team. Yeah, that's okay. Or me and Turkey. Some of our 2 anchor players play against 2 Slayer teenagers. Yeah, that's going to go well. Turkey's got to be 36 now. Or 37. Turk's doing good. I talked to him a couple of months ago. He's doing all right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you are apologizing to your mom for missing Mother's Day, finalizing your cosplay for MomoCon, being miffed that sovereignty beat journalism in the Kentucky Derby. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. It's weird taking a week off, which is what I did last week. I've been trying to take like 1 week off a month, but during Ludi season, there's just been so much to talk about. And I've just been yapping away for a long time. And I was like, I don't have anything to talk about, so I'm just going to take the week off. But it felt good to have a long stretch of time to where I didn't take a week off and we just kept the machine turning, kept things rolling here on the Popcast. And I legit thought it was like, okay, we're not going to have much to talk about this week either. Like, I could do a segment talking about Ludi, then, because Ludi just ended and there's a lot to talk about, especially with DivX. And then Cactus made a post and it's like, okay. And originally I was going to do like a segment just talking about what we're about to talk about and then a segment on Ludi. But I've been very busy at work today as things are kind of gearing up for the summer. So it'd be just a lot better if you guys just wrote half of the episode with the Taking Your Call segment, which is one of the main reasons why I'm so happy that the move to IPL happened, because on days like today where I don't have a lot of time to just kind of sit down and put pen to paper and put my thoughts down, I can do this let's just let you guys talk. And you guys have been fantastic for the most part on the Taking Your Call segment, so we're just going to keep rolling the dice with that. What I do need to do a better job of is not letting you guys ramble for too long and to cut you guys off and get rid of you so that we can move on to the next people. Whenever we do Taking Your Call segment, these things tend to drag on. And I need to stop letting that happen. So we're going to try to be quicker with you guys, get to the point that you want to make, and get the hell out so we can get the next person in. Although I will say PJ's bath time has been pushed back. His bedtime in general is now 30 minutes later than what it used to be, so he sleeps in a little bit longer. And with where we are at like 7:30, the sun's still out. Like you don't even need his nightlight on until a couple more hours after he passes out. But so there we go. Lots of stuff to get to today. News of tournaments may be of interest to the casual listener of the podcast. It's Low Ink Week, baby, and we already have over 64 teams signed up, hoping to get about 80 to 90 after drops and after bans and all that good stuff. So if you're looking to play in Low Ink, go ahead and sign up for it. If you don't have a team, you can sign up as a sub. I think we had like 30 some odd people sub last time, or at least have the sub rolled. Maybe they didn't sub because they didn't want to play with teams they thought were cringe or something. I don't know. The Low 8 pre-show is going to be Friday. That's scheduled to be 3 o'clock. That might change depending on, IRL stuff, but I'm projecting that I will be available Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, and we can do the pre-show of Low Ink. I'll give you my top 10. We'll let you guys give your top 10, and we can explain why I'm right and why you guys are all wrong. Shad, you're going to want to stick around for the weekly recap segment. I got a great story you're probably not going to enjoy, but I think it's hilarious anyways. Today, we're going to be taking your calls and also recapping Ludi Finals as the season comes to an end. I think there's still one match. I think Div 10 the World Division is still like 0-0, or they didn't report the scores. I think everybody else is done, which is amazing. If you've been paying attention to Ludi for many seasons, you know that there's always a couple of divs that tend to drag on forever. In fact, Div 2 of Season 12, I want to say, still hasn't concluded. We still don't know who the champion of that one is, but we'll get to it when we get to it, I guess. But I want your guys' opinion. I'll show you how you can join and hop onto the podcast and give your stupid opinions about what it is I'm about to say. All that and more. But first, it has been a fantastic 2 months. A great 2 months for the competitive Splatoon scene. We had Ludi going on, and Ludi's been nothing but amazing. Div X has had so many different storylines to talk about, even though it ended up with ST Win the ST winning on everybody. The CCA had one of their best, if not their best, seasons up to this point and have a great foundation to continue to build off of going into the fall semester. The LAN Championship Showdown, the event of the entire year, took place just a few weeks ago as well. Things have been going so good. The NBA playoffs, Pacers, one game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. Your Minnesota Wolves seem to be knocking on the door of that as well. Things looking really good. There's so much to talk about. So many positive things to talk about. Instead, frame one of Looney season coming to an end. We have to stop and think, oh, right, this community is doomed. There's so much going wrong here. There's so many issues that we need to point out. We got to return to the same topics we've been talking about over and over and over again. And I apologize if you have listened to many episodes of the Popcast, like Epic Pikachu has. You've probably heard me talk about this topic, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. In fact, the first ever guest appearance of the Popcast that had JPEG on as April Fool's joke, the topic JPEG talked about 3-4 years ago, was about this very same topic long before Sindow.Inc. was even a thing. The tournament oversaturation has been a issue in the competitive Splatoon community long before we were even done with challenge, believe it or not. So this is not a new issue. However, I digress. Cactus made a post on Blue Sky, and let's read it off word for word so that we don't misquote or misrepresent anybody. And it would have been great if I just had this saved on my phone, but here we go. There we go. Hot take, which, by the way, Cactus, you don't know what a hot take is if you think this is a hot take. Hot take. I might make this into a video. Too many tournaments killed the tournament scene. We're seeing the likes of tournaments that have been around for years barely gain any entries. We are seeing new tournaments pop up every 2 weeks or so and run for only 4 teams in it. And then there's a long thread. I'm not reading the whole thread. But basically, the point that Cactus was bringing out was the hot take of too many tournaments have killed the tournament scene. So I want to talk about it again. Even though, and this isn't just going to be a repeat of what I've been talking about before, because I like to think that in my advanced age that I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm adapting, I'm becoming a more well-rounded individual as I get closer to death. So you could probably look up the last time I talked about this and maybe compare, the things Popgun's saying today, May the 12th, are different from what he talked about in, I guess it was November, the last time we talked about this. And that's fine. I'm fine with contradicting myself, because if I've had thoughts in the past that don't align with where I'm at now, in my mind, that shows growth. And in my mind, that shows that I was wrong before and I'm willing to admit it now. Now, I didn't go back and listen to what I said last time. So that's just the preemptive thing of this. Like, if I'm take what I'm saying now as where I'm currently at, and if it contradicts what I said before, then this is me admitting that I was wrong before, because things have obviously changed in the community over the course of the last 6 months, the last time that we talked about this. And I see a lot of TOs in particular chiming in on this topic. And I don't think they realize how they come across. We're going to get a little bit into that a bit later. But there, as I was just reading through the comments and the reaction to that post, which I don't have any issue with the post. I think the post is fine. I think conversation is always a good thing. Debate is always a good thing. It's just pretty much everything that I saw people say annoyed me. So I wanted to come out and talk about it a little bit more. So A lot of folks chimed in, and I want to break down some key points and try to go against some popular narratives that I've seen kind of come out here. First off, on the topic of there being too many events going on in the community. This is nothing new. This is something I was kind of talking about. And in fact, one of my predictions for this year that I made in January was that at some point we were going to have 50 plus events take place on Sindao. This week we got 42. We're getting there. We're getting there. Eventually we'll get to 50. But let's be honest about this. Is it really 42 tournaments that are going on this weekend? Is it really 42 tournaments that are going on? Here's something we got to kind of realize as we're looking through that. That number is a lie. Yes, there are 42 different events listed, but not all of them are like straight up the same exact thing like we're being led to believe. There are skill cap tournaments here. There are tournaments that just have art prizes that are kind of like a gimmick tournament. There are table turf tournaments. There's turf war tournaments. There's salmon run tournaments. There are land tournaments. Now, there's not any land tournaments this week, but whenever like Chai Shoals or Squid Cities or like Booyah Bay, like pretty much any kind of land tournament that isn't actually online, they'll still put their tournament up on the calendar as well. So that number 42 is a little bit deceptive, and not all of these tournaments are exactly the same. And Sindao pointed this out yesterday, and I will reiterate it here. Last Saturday, and this is something I've seen a lot of TOs complain about. There's so many events going on Saturday. Yeah, but they're not conflicting with each other in like hardly any way. This past Saturday, the 10th, yes, there are a lot of tournaments starting at 1 o'clock Eastern time. One tournament starting at 1:02. They're either like skill capped or a 2v2 tournament or a 1v1 tournament or just like an SAC tournament or just another like skill cap way below SAC that are going on. So yes, there are a bunch of tournaments happening at the same time, but they all cater to a completely different audience. Nobody's losing a team because there's a 1v1 tournament going on at the same time as SAC. That doesn't factor into anything. And oh, by the way, Squid Junction had a primetime slot on Saturday by themselves, uninterrupted, at 7 o'clock, and still only got 9 teams for the 93rd edition of Squid Junction. So even when there's nothing competing, it's not like there's something there you can point at and be like, oh, well, teams aren't playing for this because they're playing in another tournament. No, there was a prime time, one of the best time slots to have a tournament, and teams still weren't signing up for it through a prestigious organization in Dapple Productions as well. So it's not really, when we say there's so many different tournaments going on, like, yeah, technically, but is it to the point to where it's causing an issue? Not really. Like, not even at all. And I get this narrative. And I get this narrative that there are, oh, well, if there's a bunch of tournaments going on, that there's one, that like teams are going to get stolen from somebody and placed into a different tournament. I've been consistent about this. I've been saying this for a long time. This isn't anything new. You cannot steal teams from a tournament. If teams do not sign up for your tournament and instead sign up for a different tournament that's going on at the same exact time as yours, that's because the team would rather play in that other tournament than yours. They aren't stolen from you. They aren't being like blackmailed to dodge your tournament. They found a product that better fits what they're looking for. That's on you for not creating something that entices the team that left to go play in the other tournament. That's not the other tournament's fault. If you owned a burger restaurant and then another one opens up across the street, oh, they stole our customers. No, your burgers suck, bro. That's the issue you got to get through. So I don't like this finger pointing, oh, they stole this, all this kind of stuff. That's not how that works. Splatoon tournaments is a capitalist society. That's just how it is. The strong live and the weak perish, as any anime protagonist would say. But let's just look at today. Tournaments that are starting literally 45 minutes from now. There's a Megalodon Monday and a Miku Beam tournament going on roughly within an hour apart of each other. They're both ranked. One is Splat Zones only. One is all modes. Megalodon Monday's got 11 teams. Miku Beam's got 19 teams. Well, what does that tell you? That those two teams are stealing from each other? No, there's 11 teams that prefer this format and this time slot, and there's 19 teams that prefer this and that. If we were to get to the point where we're like, well, let's just eliminate one of those tournaments, and then we're going to get 30 teams in one of those tournaments. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. Competition is a good thing. And if you don't like the fact, as a TO, if you don't like the fact that other people are creating tournaments and that teams are not signing up for yours because other tournaments exist, that's because you got to look in the mirror and realize what you're doing wrong and what you need to do to grow to help your tournament succeed, not point the finger elsewhere and blame other things outside of your control as the real society's to blame for our tournaments not getting enough teams. Oh, come on. Now, look. Here's the main point that I want to get to with these tournaments that are going on, or just like the narrative of the too many tournaments that are going on here. Are these smaller tournaments? There are a ton of these tournaments that took place last week that were getting just a handful of teams. 4, 6, 8, maybe 10 teams. There are a lot. If you go back and look on Sindow.inc, there are a lot of tournaments that are getting less than 10 teams. That's not a good thing. I will openly admit that is not a good thing. However, is that hurting the scene? Is that killing the competitive tournament scene? No. No, what are you guys even talking about? Those things aren't harming anything. There's nothing wrong with tournaments that are going on that don't get a lot of teams. They're not taking away from anything. They're not devaluing. They're not watering down anything. I don't understand that narrative. Maybe I did before, but I'm at a point where I just don't really believe. It just seems like you're reaching for a reason to throw shade at something when it's not even the main problem that we're kind of looking at right here. These tournaments to get 4 to 8 to 10 teams that sign up for it, they ain't hurting nobody. And the point was brought up the last time that I did a taking your call segment. Somebody came on, I forget who. Somebody came on and somebody DM'd me today just to kind of reiterate this narrative. A lot of these smaller tournaments that only get like 4 or 6 teams to sign up for it, those people that are signing up for it want to play in it. Those 6 teams enjoy being a part of that. And yes, it's not like, oh, this is a tournament that's going to help us improve, but it's for them, it is fun. They enjoy doing it, and it's not harming anybody. And those 4 to 6 teams probably don't want to play in other tournaments anyways. So what is the harm with a smaller tournament just existing? There is none. That's the point. There is none. If they still have a market, as small of a market and as small of a demand as they do, it's not hurting anything. So why are we pointing it out? Why are we upset that it exists? I know why we're upset that I know why. I know why. Because it's not what you're supposed to do in the community, right? It's not the path you're supposed to take. You're not supposed to take the small tournament path. You're supposed to not play in low ink and find people above the low ink skill cap and grind your way up and and walk into the office and demand a job from the CEO and shake their hand and look in their eye. That's the path you're supposed to go through in this competitive Splatoon community. I am so sick of that narrative. I'm so tired of hearing people, especially at the top of the community, tell everybody else how they're supposed to go through this community. You're not supposed to be playing in these certain tournaments. You got to play in those certain tournaments. Why do you care what other people do? I don't understand that. And it's what's funny? Because I see so many people at the top who will tell you not to play in low ink, but low ink has been around long enough to a lot of those people are now at the top that grew up in a low ink. And I'm not sitting here saying that they needed low ink to get to the point to where they were, but it's awfully funny how people will graduate from low ink and the first thing they'll spit out of their mouth is, if you want to get to where I am, don't play in low ink like I did. You got to do something completely different. What if people just want to have fun? When next time somebody at the top tells you what you need to be doing to get to the top in this community, ask them this question. How come you're not a top player in a different esport? Why is it just Splatoon that you're a top player in? The response is going to be a pretty reasonable one. Well, I don't have any interest in climbing the top in like Rocket League or Marvel or anything like that. And that's when you go, aha! Okay, so what you realize is that there is a lot of people in this community who don't care to become the top. They just want to play the game competitively to have fun. And it's okay. We got to be okay with that. Oh, this environment is too safe. Nobody wants to leave low level. Why do you care? Why do you genuinely care? It doesn't affect you. And they don't have the drive to get to the top anyways. Will there be people that will use the low-level scene as a way to climb up and to grow, and they want to eventually take on the FT wins of the world? Yes. Yes, there are many success stories that are like that. There are tons of people that are like that. But for that many people that have that mentality and the skill to be able to pull it off, there are thousands of people that just don't want to play the game in the horrible ranked mode and play bluefin splat zones for a 2-hour rotation and would rather just play something a little bit more semi-competitive. Not casual, semi-competitive. And that's fine. We got to be okay with that. That's the value that a lot of these smaller tournaments, what I would call a bracket and a badge tournament. I was wrong. They don't just offer a bracket and a badge. They offer a bracket, a badge, and a little bit of an opportunity for somebody to get escape from this hellish world that we live in. That's a little bit of a nice value to it. Do they have a stream? No. Could the quality of the tournament be improved? Absolutely. And if that's the point we want to have, is that the conversation we want to have, I think that's a perfectly fine conversation to have. The problem is the conversation has been twisted to where this narrative is, this is hurting the community, and oh my gosh, it is not. It absolutely is not. There are so many things hurting our community right now. And I don't have time to get into every single one of them because I want to just stay focused on this topic. But this is so far away from the worst thing happening in this community right now. But Popgun, the badges. I get it. I get the badges. I totally get the badges. It's hilarious that there are people that are eligible from the Ink Up that have so many badges across their sash. They look like they sold the most tag-alongs in their Girl Scout troop for the past 6 years. I get it. Okay, I completely get it. Some of those badges are pretty cool, though. I'm not going to lie. Some of those badges do look pretty cool. Shout out to Moo Moo Cup, which is running their first edition of a tournament this same weekend as Low Ink. It's an open invite tournament. Their badge is pretty cool. It's a little cow. It's a little Moo Moo Meadows cow rotating. Who wouldn't want to win that? Who wouldn't want to be a part of something like that? But it's not hurting anything. Come on. It was hurting my eyeballs seeing Harshy's screen almost like fry my computer for it to load. But now that got fixed to where you can put like your badges in different categories or different boxes and display like 5 or 6 at a time. Problem solved. I don't have any issues with these badges. None of that's hurting the scene. You know what is hurting the scene? You know what really is hurting the scene? And this is where it's going to get uncomfortable for some of you. And this is the point that I want to bring up that I bet a lot of other folks would love to bring up, but just didn't feel comfortable saying it publicly yesterday. And I'll absolutely say it right here. IPL folks, you guys cannot be so doggone aggressive in this particular category. When we're having these conversations, you guys cannot dominate the conversation. That is such a bad look for us. And I understand my thoughts are completely separate because I put in my Twitter bio that I'm not associated. My thoughts don't associate with my org. Guess what? It reflects back on us every single time. I can sit here and say that I don't talk about it. Well, guess what? I'm on the IPL channel right now. I got the IPL logo right there. Everything I say, whether I want it to or not, reflects back on my organization. You don't believe me? Watch anytime a CEO does something crazy, and then their stock starts to plummet. Well, you can't. My stock can't go down. I put in my Twitter bio that my thoughts are my own. Yeah, that's not how that works, buddy. The amount of aggression and like just the frame one jumping on it from so many folks within IPL is so discouraging. And a lot of people see that, and it comes across as IPL being gatekeeping and kind of being a little bit of a world police as far as like, well, here's the events that should be going on and here's the events that need to step down. I do not like that at all. And maybe Dapples did it to some extent. I didn't really see it. I had some people reach out to me about it. I'm just going to focus on the IPL stuff. The badges, I get. Should there be some badges that are more important than others? I don't know about that. I don't know about that anymore. Whoever created the little floating cow thing paid as much as of a commission price to get that built as we did for whatever badges we made for IPL. Why do our badges get to be, oh, our badges should be bigger or our badges should be shiny or something like that? No, a badge is a badge. And we can spend all this time about, oh, all these players are hunting for badges. Maybe that's a problem that we haven't created something better than a badge to hunt after. Maybe there's not a better clout system that we have to where we got to harp on these badges. These badges got to be bigger than others. Oh. Do I think tournaments should hold more weight than others? Yes. Yes, I do. I've seen the idea kicked around by Sindao of some tournaments having a better rank value score than some other tournaments. But here's another thing I want to point out. When that conversation comes to figure out how many like certain weight a certain tournament should hold towards the standings, IPL and Dapple Productions should not have a seat at the table for that conversation. If they do, then you need to invite everybody else to that conversation as well, because there's a lot of good tournaments put out from both of those organizations. But raise my hand and say there's been a lot of proving grounds that are absolute dog crap that I am not proud of, that should not hold more weight than some of these other events. Dapples would say the same thing, and if they don't, they're crazy. There are a lot of tournaments that are not associated with any orgs that are popping off, or some tournaments that are associated with orgs. All for one had the most teams sign up of any tournament last week. It was the biggest one by far. Miku Beam is really popping off. I don't understand why. I still don't know who Miku is. Maybe that's a sign of me turning 5 next month. I don't know. But that tournament, every time I look into it and it's not doing some sort of skill cap, it's doing pretty damn good. Especially I don't know, Curse of Excalibur. Maybe that's at org. I have no idea. There's a lot of tiny orgs I have absolutely no end about. But still, there's a lot of tournaments not associated with those kinds of things that are doing a great job and doing great works. So I don't want IPL to try to set the narrative that our SOS and our SAC and our low inks are more valuable than some of these other tournaments. It's not. Yeah, do we have good streams? Yes. Can we pull in some of the best commentators in the scene? Absolutely. Does the value of our tournament outweigh anything else just because of that? No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. And I don't even know why IPL is kind of like blowing this up to be a non-issue that it is. Or blowing it up to be an issue when it's really just a non-issue. Again, nobody's stealing teams from us. If it is, that's our issue. Nobody's stealing viewership from us. Is viewership down in our tournaments? Absolutely. There's no debating that. It's not other tournaments that are causing that kind of hurt, though. You can't point the finger anywhere else for us and say, we haven't made a product that is entertaining enough up to this point. So I really hope the IPL folks start to realize, just from a PR standpoint, how other people perceive us when we are being the first ones to hop onto this. Yes, all these other tournaments are the problem. Really? Come on. That cannot be the case. It cannot be the case. Now, beside that, as much as I'm bashing my own org right now, I'm really happy with the direction that IPL is currently going internally. Our direction right now is more quality tournaments and less quantity. We've taken some tournaments out of circulation, including my own proving grounds, and instead are trying to think, what can we do? What value do these tournaments add to the community? SOS adds a lot of value to the community, always has been. Even when they're having a down week, they're still getting 36 teams, which is a ton of teams for a Wednesday night tournament. Proving Grounds, the reason it is on hiatus right now is because it had no value to the scene. It was just IPL's version of a double limb Splat Zone tournament, which already exists 20 times over in the community. Could we do it better than some of these other orgs? I feel like we could. Was it redundant? Yes. So we changed the format a gazillion times. By the way, the most popular format Proving Grounds has ever had was the single elimination into a top 4 double elimination. Signs that we should bring that back. More single elimination. Oh my gosh, how pissed everybody was at me when we did that, but would still sign up the next week. Was so hilarious. However, I'm not immune to being upset at tournaments going on at the same time. I completely understand that, because I too have been pretty pissed off when a tournament has run over mine. We did a Proving Grounds in November, and we changed up the format. We offered a prize pool for the first time in Proving Grounds history. We were going to take the winners of other tournaments that we selected, and we were going to have them play against each other each month in a monthly championship. We set it all up. We DM'd the teams. Hershey won like half the tournaments we were looking out for, but we were getting everything set. And then Black Lotus Cup came out of nowhere, and everybody else left us to sign up for that. They didn't steal our teams. They created a better product that our teams went to. Was I upset about that? Yes. Can I blame Black Lotus Cup for that? No. I blame myself. And I look and I see, what do we need to change? So that's why Proving Grounds has been on hiatus. Because if we're going to go up against some of these bigger tournaments, it has to have a value. And I'm not going to leak anything, but somebody who came from a quote-unquote smaller tournament, some of these TOs who might feel like they're being gate-kept out of the community because IPL's dominated conversation on this, approached us with a proposal that I think would make LCS look like the little brother to what we're trying to accomplish right here. I'm really excited about the future of Proving Grounds, and it's from an idea that came outside of IPL that could spark where that tournament goes in the future. More of that to come down the pipe. But still, I'm really happy with that direction IPL's going. Less tournaments, more content, things like that. But let's be real here. Is tournament saturation an issue? Yes. Yes, it's an issue worth talking about. It's an issue worth debating about. And I'm very curious to hear your guys' takes on everything I just said and your own takes on the tournament saturation thing going forward. But let's not blow this out of the water and say this is killing the scene. It's not. It's absolutely not. What do you guys have against Moo Moo Cup? Come on. It's a little cow that rotates. I want to win that badge. We're going to be taking your calls. I want to hear your thoughts. If you want to be a part of this, here's how this works. Go the IPL General channel in the Popcast VC. Let's start the stage. Taking your calls in lowercase. We're not going to ping everybody like we did last time. And of course, Acing's the first one in there. And we are going to get through you. Raise your hand. We will bring you on. I do have a, if this is a taking your call segment, I do have a voicemail from somebody who won't be here to get their take on that as well. But I want to hear from you guys. And while we let the phone lines warm up, we are going to do a quick weekly recap to talk about Ludi coming to an end. Division X was won by Slide to Win. They beat Moonlight 5-2. Even though Moonlight came back against Moonshine 5-4 in epic fashion, it ultimately wasn't enough to beat Slide to Win. If there was a prediction on what you think Slide to Win would beat Moonlight by, is 5-2 like the perfect score to bet? Like, I bet Moonlight would take 2 games off of them. Well, they did, and that was the end result. Slide to Win, as much as we were talking about Division X, Slide to Win went 35-6 per games in Division X. Maybe it was a little lopsided in one team's favor. Yeesh. Division 1 was won by Regular Show. They beat Serotonin 5-1. I believe somebody came into the Popcast a couple of weeks ago to hype up Serotonin, and Regular Show took umbrage of that. Division 2, Durburger got a 5-1 win over Loxier. Casted this one on Ludi tonight. Loxier just got sped up or slowed down, I guess you could say. It couldn't really play the play style they wanted to. Durburger setting the pace right off of game 1. Nicely done to them. Division 3, New Information is your champion. They beat Dreamy Wave. I believe I predicted Dreamy Wave to win that division. They finished second place. New Information beat them 5-2. Division 4, Reload needs to stop reloading. I think you've loaded up. You beat Yellow Jackets 5-2. They win the division. Here is Reload's record in Division 4 the entire season per game. They won 45 games and only lost 6 times. Who's the jackass to put them in Div 4? Div 5 goes to the Fruit Punch Sunday team. There you go. There you go. You want your accolades. Fruit Punch Sunday is very tasty, I assume. I've never had it. Pringle Cat's the team that finished in second place. Before you ask, stop DMing me, you Div 5 playoff teams. Stop DMing me. Fruit Punch Sunday is already banned, so it didn't really matter if they won or not. Division 6, Cosmic Cherries. They got the dub yesterday. I was casting that with Rose of Battle. That was on Roulette that they got the win against 5-3. They were down 1-3 and then won 4 in a row for that. Sonata won Division 7. They got a 5-3 win over Amendo Bobos. Division 8, Payback got a 5-0 win over Night Logic. In the tournaments, or in the playoffs, Payback went 20-1 per games in the playoffs. They only dropped 1 game the entire Div 8 playoffs. Division 9A went to Mafia Studio 5-2 over Strike. Division 9 World went to Steralia 5-1 over Siphonicphoric. I gotta have said that correctly. Division 10 America, the Inkvaders got a 5-4 win over Splatastrophe to close off the Ludi Tonight season. And Division 10 Worlds is still yet to be determined. A champion for that division. And that was your weekly recap. Sponsored by the Inkvaders. So, as I was getting ready to cast Div 6 finals on Ludi Tonight, I saw that they were playing the Div 10 finals a little bit later that night, and I was like, the Inkvaders? I didn't realize the Inkvaders were even playing. How did they end up in Div 10? The Inkvaders have been a team since like 2016, I want to say. Like, my team scrimmed against Inkvaders in 2018. Like, everybody who does seeding regularly in this community knows who the Inkvaders are. At the very worst, they should be Div 6. How did they end up in Div 10? So, here's what happened. There is another team called Inkvaders who made a send-out team profile before the original Inkvaders did. And because of that, they can't name themselves Inkvaders. So what do they do instead? The I that they use in Inkvaders, they change to a lowercase L. So it still looks like Invaders, but if you were to hit Control F and search, you can't find them because you're not going to look for the L, you're going to look for the I. So as we're doing seeding, we're so confused because we're like, I can't find any information on these 500 teams on Invaders. Did they drop? No, look, there's clearly here. Somebody clearly signed up as Invaders. So we put them in Div 10, and then when it's time to catch them, we're like, oh, this isn't Invaders. This is a different Invader team that we know. So that's why they ended up in Div 10. We thought they were the other Invader team, but no, because of syntax, they ended up in Division 10 because we couldn't search for them and we didn't know they were actually there. So now I will know to search for A-Vaders. Just keep out the ink or NK-Vaders. I don't know. But the reason they're in Division 10 and not at worst Division 6 is because they have an L, lowercase L, instead of an I, because there's 2 Invader teams. So to make up for that, I'll make them the official sponsor of today's segment of the weekly recap. We missed it because we didn't search for you. We searched for Invaders and we found the other team first. If I searched lowercase L Invaders, we would have found you. And we would have been like, oh, well, this is what's going on here. But we never found you, and we thought you were the other team. That's like, how did Shadsy end up in Div 10? Like, how did we screw that up? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We got a lot of hands raised. And we don't have a lot of time. Okay, so we're going to get to the person who sent me a voicemail first. This is Falco sending me a voicemail giving his thoughts on the topic.
So I wanted to give my 2 cents here because I can't watch the Popcast live. My name's Falco, long-time listener, first-time caller. So obviously, tournament discussion. I feel like one of the marks that's missed from a lot of people is that it's up to the players to decide which tournaments we are playing in. I'm not a TO, really. I own Splatoon Tourney, but again, we don't really create our own tournaments that are streamed. But I think where the issue is with a lot of these garbage tournaments that are kind of popping up is that there are a lot that come up and they get just enough signups that the tournament is going to continue to run for another edition or in the future. I think we as players in the community, we're going to ultimately be deciding which tournaments are going to be running in the future. And the only way to do that is to not sign up for those tournaments that you quote unquote don't want to have, that, you can kind of weed out. But again, the tricky part is some of these tournaments, they're going to get like 6, 8, 10 teams participate, which is just enough that I feel like most TOs will say, you know what, I can give it another go, we'll do it again. So you have all these tournaments that have low signups, but not low enough that the TOs aren't going to run the tournament again, but not high enough that it's really substantial. And obviously, if 3 tournaments running at the same time all have 6 to 8 teams, you have one tournament that's going to have 15, 20 teams, it's going to run much better. I just think that's kind of a mark that a lot of people are missing, is that, again, it's up to the players to decide which tournaments we want to see, not the TOs. It's very easy to not sign up for a tournament that if you don't want to support it and see it run again.
That's the same point that I've kind of made several times as well. The players vote with their attendance as far as what they want to see happen in the community, what tournaments they think should exist. And what we have to start to be on board with is if a tournament only has 4 teams signing up for it and a team wants to keep coming back and keep playing in that, it's not hurting anybody. It's fine. They're not hurting the scene there. We got a lot of hands. Let's start mowing through some things. Ribber, get to the point. Get to the point of what you're talking about. Some of you are long-winded, especially Hammy, who we're bringing on first.
I can be long-winded. That's fair. That's a fair call-out.
There's been a lot of call-outs today. You deserve a stray here or there, too. What you got, Hammy?
All right. I was going to come on here. I was very excited to talk about tournament stuff, and then you immediately said all the things that I was going to say. Because, it's... My view is not only... This isn't only a tournament thing. This is everything. This relates to the the pickup culture debate, the results culture debate. It applies to viewership lacking in these tournaments. Everything comes down to we cannot control what the people want. We have to give the people what they want. And so as a community, we have so much focus on the negative and how can we eradicate the negative? How can we take this thing that we think is destroying what we want to do and remove it? That is not a productive or constructive thought process. What we need to do is look at what is our end goal and how do we achieve that? How do we make a product that people want to play, that people want to watch? How do we make a format that people want to form long-lasting teams for? It's all about constructive processes, because ultimately, you kind of talked about this earlier, these smaller and newer TOs, this is just something fun for them. Think of it as like somebody drawing a picture and doing art or doing other things, or even making a Splatoon team. They feel like making a tournament and they're going to do that. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's not a threat. It should not be seen as a threat. It should be seen as somebody having an interest in competitive Splatoon. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But we need to shift our focus constructively in order to move forward and move on to bigger and better things.
I agree. I agree with everything you said. And, there's probably a time where I didn't agree with what you said. And if that was the case, then I was wrong. And this is growth in realizing that, like, oh, wait, there's just people having fun. Who cares? Who cares? And yes, is it fair to say that you think of all the issues we have going on right now, this is like the least pressing issue that needs to be addressed of our community?
Yes and no. I think it is good that people are recognizing that there is a large quantity of tournaments that don't provide a lot of value. So I wouldn't say it's the least pressing issue. I just think that, not every single ounce of our focus has to go into it right now. But the point that I want to make is every time we have an issue like this, again, the results, the Zendo badges, all these other things that people have problems with, is we need to have a better system of critical thinking and constructive processes to move forward rather than focusing on destroying and removing and deleting things, because that's not going to get us anywhere.
Hammy,
You covered all the points I wanted to make today, so I was going to focus on that, is that as a whole, as a community, we need to work together a bit more.
Well, there we go. You call in anytime. Good points. And do you have your cosplay? Did I ask you last time if you have your cosplay set for MomoCon?
I'm not cosplaying for MomoCon, unfortunately, because
when in Rome?
It's in a different country. I how am I going to transport a? Okay, my costumes are outlandish. I got a costume banned from the local convention here because I cosplayed as Doug Dimmadome, and my costume is over 12 feet tall. I have a 6'4" tall white top hat in the corner of my room at all times, and I'm not allowed at the convention anymore because I am taller than most rooms in the convention center.
All right, get out of here.
Bye.
They banned Doug Dimmadome from the convention. Let's get the EU folks in chat in case they're like waiting to talk and then go to bed. So let's bump them up the line, starting with Acine. Good morning.
Good morning. I am not waiting to go to bed. I'll probably be up for a couple hours more.
Well, fair enough. What you got?
All right, I'll cut to the chaser. I feel this way, and I'm curious to see if you agree. But my stance on the whole 2020 thing is that I don't think the issue comes down to the fact that we've got too many. I think that we've got too many that feel the same, and that there's quite a lot of tourneys that do the same thing with the same or a format that we've seen so many times at this point that ends up effectively it does kind of split the player base, and that you could have sometimes you have the same tourney, or well, not the same tourney, but two tourneys with the same format running over each other, doing the exact same thing. And there's too many instances of effectively like a copy-paste SOS format, or like a fourth 2v2 tourney this week, or just things like that, where it's not necessarily the tourneys themselves and the fact there's too many of them. I just think it's the fact that they're kind of just the same tourney done again. by a different group of people, and there's too many of that as opposed to too many tourneys in general.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of that. There, but it's funny because the ones that copy other tournaments are sometimes the most successful ones. For obvious reasons. It's just, well, let's just do this tournament at a different time slot, and maybe with a TO who you don't hate yet, and you feel like more comfortable playing with this person. I don't know. As long as like people are signing up for it. Now, I can totally understand, because as the low ink TO, nobody has ripped us off, or nobody's been ripped off more than us. There have been so many times, long before a lot of these people have joined the community, where people literally copy and pasted the low ink rulebook into their tournaments. One time, I found somebody who copy and pasted the Proving Grounds rulebook because they included Proving Grounds in every single word that was in their tournament. So like, there's a lot of like copy and there's a lot of copy and pasting, not just rules but formats. But at the end of the day, like, how many different formats are there? At some point, everybody's going to do a double limb splat zone tournament, because like that, what else are you going to do? Groups, ladder? Nobody wants to do that. So like there's only so much variety you can do. It's just, how do you like present yourself? What makes your tournament unique? And it's not like a special rule, but it's like, how do you make people care about your event, I guess, is what everyone needs to figure out. Not so much like what's similar.
that's fair. I think the issue just ends up for me being the fact that there's so many that are effectively the same thing. Without, like, for example, it's like barely any TOing, no stream, things like that, where it's just like, it's just kind of someone's pressed the host tourney button and that's just kind of there now.
It's a bracket and badge tournament is the name that I've had
like,
for those.
It's bracket and badge tourney, but there's a lot of those more than
Yes.
ones that like a lot of effort's been put into.
My son's trying to break into my room. I'm going to dump you now and move on to the next person.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Let's get Pinky up here. Pinky all up in this one. W Pinky. Earth to Pinky. Good morning.
Hello. Hi. Hi. Sorry. I was on mute. Okay. Hi, Popgun. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. How's life on the other side of the pond?
It's cold today.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So I sort of missed your entire like first like 30 minutes of you talking. So I don't know if you mentioned this, but I was wondering, how much do you think that this rise of like tournament oversaturation is like not necessarily like a fault, but like it's because of like send to the audience?
Oh, like because it's easier to become to create a tournament. I think that plays a factor into it, and I didn't really talk about that. Now, I've said this many times, and it's still the case. Before and after Sindao was created, the only barrier of entry to be in a TO is to be 13 years old. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The day you have your bar mitzvah, you can throw a tournament up, and it doesn't have to be Sindao. It can be Battlefy or Challenge, or if you really hate people, Start.gg. So like I think it's easier for people to create tournaments, but the barrier to entry hasn't changed at all. Like, if you really cared enough to figure out Battlefy wasn't that difficult to figure out, honestly. It's just a little bit easier to do with Sindao. But I think it played a role, but I don't see it as a negative, as I've seen other people kind of point out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it's like a negative. I mean, the fact that so many more new people are sort of starting to make new tournaments on Sending, it's literally a good platform design from Send, like, and that's like a natural consequence of that. But I personally feel like back in the day when people will try to make a tournament like without putting much effort into it, it will pretty quickly they will pretty quickly realize that their tournament is not really gaining any traction, and they will sort of naturally fade out of like existence. But I feel like the way that discoverability is for the current tournaments with the calendar, right? Like oh, like we keep bashing like uh bracket and badge tournaments, but but that's like still like a very small incentive for all those teams, and that's something that keeps those tournaments that I feel like back in the day will not survive, like, and like they will like get no teams at all on the first round, and then they will just be shut down. But this time, but because there's this like sort of fake incentive, pretty much, that gets like at least 6 or 8 teams playing, and that sort of keeps the ball rolling and more like tournaments get into. And I don't know. That's
No,
just my
I
2 cents.
I get your point. I will say a lot of kind of what you said. I kind of like debated against, I guess, in the 30 minutes that you missed. So I
Right.
won't like repeat myself right here, but I get what you're saying
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You call in anytime, Pinky. We're gonna keep moving down the list, but thank you for giving
Yeah. Thank you very much.
your takes
Have
on that. I guess we should get Cactus in here since this is the flashpoint that started all the Cactus. What did you do?
Oh, I don't know. I lit a match and everything caught on fire. That's my bad. That's my bad. Um, Hi Falcon, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. What you got? What's your takes?
So first off, I want to give a huge thank you to you and everyone that replied on Blue Sky and everyone here raising their hands, yada yada. Thank you guys so much for giving your opinions on this, because I will admit, poor word choice by me. I will take that, punch to the chin. That is 100% my bad. I had woken up the last day of my PTO, and the first thing I saw when I opened up, I don't remember if it was Twitter or Blue Sky, was someone saying, "Dog, why are there 5 tournaments at the same time?" And I was like, this is a problem again, isn't it? And I was just like, what if I just say something? And it was productive. I chose Blue Sky over Twitter, which I think was the best decision I made.
Yes.
But yeah, to quickly kind of give my 2 cents. I agree with a lot of your points. I agree with a lot of people's points, a lot of different perspectives, and I'm not going to give too much information of what I want to say because I do plan to make a video about it. I'm actually writing right now. I'm at 4 pages deep into a script. But there is oversaturation. Has been a problem, like you said, for a long time, and I feel like a lot of players are just copy pasting just because that's what fits, that's what works. People are just trying because they want to try it. They want to do it because that's how they feel it works. At some point, though, there needs to be recognition that we need to start caring for other areas of the scene that isn't just, I want to make it for funsies, because that's what I feel like a lot of it is, right? They want the experience. Maybe they did or didn't. I did submit a Google form I posted on Twitter and Blue Sky, and a lot of the replies so far, what I'm seeing is people didn't even bother trying to reach out to other orgs to help out. They didn't really try to get ideas. They just did it just to do it. And while that's cool and all, it really shows that like they started with something and just kind of stopped and just let it keep rolling without advancing in any way. And that's fine. It's just open skill tournaments we have so many of. Your gimmick tournaments, those I think are in a fine spot. Who doesn't love a good gimmick sometimes? Low level obviously consistently is a high market for players because there's just so many. But I mentioned it on Blue Sky. I mentioned in my video. I'll mention it here. You have maybe 3 max mid-level tournaments, right? Your SACs, your every so often tournaments that pop like Tri-Sec Tuesday, and I'm sure there's a third one out there. But for your high and top level, there's really nothing. And I feel like the best example I give of what you can do to make it good and interesting and entertaining for both the players, probably the TOs, to have an easy day, and even the viewership, is look at what JJ did with the Gauntlet. That was a beautifully ran event that was primarily invite only, so that way you don't have these random pickups of just whoever decided to get 8 people that morning because they have their friend group free to get a free win. It's like you have players and teams of that are consistent, that are going to keep showing up with those same 4 to 5 max and put on a show. And every time I watched that tournament, every set went to a game 5 minimum. If anything, was game 4. Everything was exciting. Every moment was high stakes, and it had great production, had great commentary, and it just goes to show, like, just put the care into a niche that's not hit yet, and you will blow, people's minds and blow things out of the water by just focusing an area that just needs that kind of care. And like, look, that's not for everybody. I understand that, but someone's got to do it at some point, and hopefully we see that soon. As that's just kind of what we need right now. And top levels hasn't got much. Mid levels got somewhat something. Just try to be more unique is really what I'm trying to say. That's what I feel like it would really help us out a lot here.
I'm glad you brought up the Gauntlet. I'm kind of miffed that I didn't mention that myself, but yeah, they did a great job. The 2 tournaments that they've run, they've been able to get the right kind of teams to come into their event. I think they partnered with Stormy's Hood Commentary to do the stream for that. And that's good. And that's because they've been able to build up connections with those teams over time. They've been able, like, if just some random person was like, I'm going to make an invitational, they're just like, who are you? Like, why would I play in this? But when it's somebody who has connections and you know what kind of quality of tournament you're going to get from that, I'm kind of interested to see what Gauntlet becomes in the future. I think that's a great example of a tournament that goes above and beyond just handing out a bracket and a badge. As far as like people not reaching out to orgs, to me that says is that we're unapproachable, or that we're seen as unapproachable, which is why I kind of did the segment that I just did, talking about how other people perceive it when it's just IPL folks that are chiming in and talking about how there's too many tournaments in the community. It might not feel comfortable raising their hand and be like, actually, this is like, your guys' response to this kind of, it like makes me wary of like wanting to reach out for you guys to help, because it seems like you might not help me. Now, to be fair, I get a lot of DMs and I get a lot of proposals. Some proposals are good. Some proposals are like, I don't know how to tell you this is horrible. But like, I wouldn't want to reach a point to where somebody's like, I'm not going to reach out to anyone of IPL because I'm scared to do so. And I feel like we might have that narrative, to be honest with you. Cactus, I'm going to let you go on that because we got some other people to go. Thanks for coming on, and we look forward to the video.
Absolutely.
All right. This is not too familiar with Sound Hurts, so this could only go good or bad. Sound Hurts, good morning.
Hi. My name is Sound Hurts. You probably saw the charts from my survey in that original thread from Cactus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I ran that survey a short while ago, and I've just been quietly stalking. Well, not really quietly. I've been pretty loud about it on Blue Sky. I've just been stalking the conversation. I've been like quietly trying to gain a bit of a perspective, because I don't really have that much experience when it comes to running the tournaments themselves, just like the tournament organizers, the tournament organizations, but not necessarily how tournaments are run. And when you started talking about like these bracket and a badge tournaments, like there are just people who want to do this crap for fun. I agree with you, but I kind of want to say, like, I think them being in the same time slot's still going to be a problem, because I do believe that the casual competitive community deserves better, to put it nicely. Like, it's good that there's more tournaments for different kinds of people to have the experience they want, but I still think that experience should be good and should be available to more people, because a lot of these are just following the same time slots, which are usually like 8 p.m. EST. That's like not accessible for people on Pacific time, for example. And while there's, obviously a lot of tournaments, so clearly they can be in different time slots, I still think that there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot of jostling around that can be done to help these tournaments improve themselves.
So just to clarify, you're not saying like smaller tournaments should come off of primetime slots because other tournaments got there first. You're more so saying there's like underserved time slots that should be tried to, like, someone should try to fill those first for
Correct.
something that would benefit West Coast or even like Oceania or things like that that are typically underserved?
Precisely, because they're heavily underserved. I am a restaurant worker. I'm a prep cook, so I get up at really early in the morning, which means I get means I go to bed like really early in the morning, early at night. So 8 p.m. brackets can either last me like until like 10 p.m., which is a reasonable bedtime, or like until like 2 a.m., which is an unreasonable bedtime when you're getting up at 4 in the morning. It really does depend on what the situation is and like other sorts of like what else is happening, technical difficulties. That stuff happens, you know? But it's one of those things where I do genuinely think like if they were to appeal to more underserved communities, that would greatly help their growth rather than this weird mindset that everyone's competing for the same amount of players. I hope that makes sense.
It makes sense to me. I'm digging what you're saying. Soundhurts, you call in anytime, all right? Whenever you're not doing cook work and stuff like that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Popgun. Have a wonderful day.
No, you. Let's well, that went well. That was pleasant. And of course, it can only get pleasanter if we bring on Keon.
Yo! First of all, do you ever miss the 200 team Loinks of the past?
What's your next question?
Fair enough. No. So the side effect with the tournament over saturation as well, because I primarily speak from the production or commentary side of the fence for the as you can gather, is we also are at the mercy of picking the tournaments or league matches that we want to commentate. There were several moments I did CCA League, but then I realized, oh right, I also have a duty to help out with duty tonight as well. I was like, yeah, I actually also realized that I've kind of committed to this to the time slot that CCA had for the IPL collab. I'm like, right. So there's also a limited number of streamers and commentators that are available to handle a lot of the events, a lot of tournaments that wanted streams, and I think that just will continue to possibly get worse the more you get tournament oversaturation, especially with those in specific time slots. That's kind of my read on the whole tournament oversaturation, not just for players, but for streamers, but for tournaments that wanted streams, such as obviously IPLs, DAPLs, etc. Your takes on that, out of curiosity?
Well, from my own perspective of being a commentator, if somebody DMs me personally, I will almost always say yes, I'll be a part of your tournament unless I'm just not available. I mean, I'm not available most weekend daytime because I'm hanging out with my kid. But I have noticed whenever Ludi Tonight does a ping for commentators, and maybe I'm leaking something, I don't know. I can get yelled at by Falco later if I'm not supposed to be saying this. But there are a ton of people, and I know you've seen this too, Keon, a ton of people that respond to those pings. There's like... They only need like 4 commentators, maybe 2 a night, but they're getting like 14, 16 people respond like, hey, I'm available for this and that, versus some other tournaments that ping, and I'm like, I'm not going to respond to that. Like if they need an emergency commentator, I'll hop in, but I'd just rather be involved in certain things. Same thing with CCA. I love commentating with the CCA, but I didn't respond to any of their pings just because I wanted to keep myself available for Ludi Tonight, because I was much more interested in commentating that. So I think there's a demand for people that can commentate. I think there's a lot of commentators. I just think they would rather gravitate to projects they're more interested in, which for a lot of people was Ludi Tonight first and then everything else second.
That basically gets to the point. Is like it's gonna come down ultimately to preferences, and I've had moments where like, you're right, I would love to do a tournament, but also there's another thing I would much prefer to do, and then it just goes back to the whole feedback loop of how can we get the people, the production talent such as streamers, commentators, etc., to do our stuff. And that was basically kind of what my point was the entire time.
Yeah. If somebody DMs me personally, I almost always say yes, because it's like, oh, you want me. Like I love that. Like hell yeah. What are we doing? A gimmick tournament? 1v1? Sure, I don't care. Let's do it. All right, Keon. Pacers up 3-1 against the Cavs. Wolves are up 2-1. They play tonight in San Francisco. Is that correct?
Yes, Game 4 in San Francisco tonight, and I'm rooting for the Wolves 3-1 series lead. Please do it, Wolves. Don't fail me now.
You better do it before Curry comes back, and then it's over.
Oh yeah.
All right, Keon, I'll woo to you, and good luck.
Yep.
Okay, now this person, because I got streamer mode on, only has a T that is visible, and I don't know what their full name is. So the first thing they're going to do is accept the invite, and then you are going to tell us your name, which is
Okapa. Hi.
Tapaka.
Okapa.
Okay, hi.
Okay, everyone makes that mistake. So,
Fair enough.
hi. I could talk about everything you talked about for hours, but I want to focus on one specific issue that's affected me personally. I really want to be a TO. I am a TO. I'm a TO for Sea Battle. But you talked about, like, one of the things I always see when this conversation comes up is, why aren't these TOs who are making their own event helping out, trying to join the bigger organizations and whatnot?
I know the answer to that,
And-
but I think you're gonna give me the exact same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of reasons. It doesn't really matter, but, like, as far as I'm aware, there's only 2 organizations I know of that have, like, an actual application process. And I personally have applied to one of them multiple times over the past year, and I have not heard anything. Not even a whisper, not a friend, not a DM, not a friend request, nothing. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm not like it blows my mind when you say you get DMs from people, from, like, random people, because I could never do that. But, like, I do think you talked about approachability and whatnot. I think there is a disconnect between, like, people who want to help out, ETOs, whatnot, and the organizations who need help. Like, if you want help, have some sort of application process. Have just like IPL has the Google sheet. It's that simple. You just make a sheet. Or you say, and if you say DM's open, that's great too. But I'm not gonna just cold DM someone out of the blue.
Right.
I just can't. It's not in my nature. Can't. I have too much anxiety for that. Like, literally the only reason I'm even a TO for Sea Battle is, like, pure random chance. So, like, like I said, I just think it needs to be more clear how we can connect these lower level TOs with the organization.
Let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking. The org that you're talking about, is it IPL? And it's okay to, like, call us out for that.
I mean, I don't want, like, people to, like, watch this and feel like I'm coming on here just to, like, promote my application or anything.
I get what you're saying. Well, let me just speak on
I'm just,
IPL's
like, expressing
behalf.
a frustration, that I've had.
Well, let me just speak on IPL's behalf with this kind of thing, because I'll openly say how we've handled staff stuff hasn't been perfect. Typically, whenever we are looking for staff, that's when we do, like, a ping. But the problem is we leave that application up just year round. So then when we're not looking for staff, people apply for it, and then we're just like, oh, we're not really checking this because we're not actively looking for staff. That's not good on our part. That's because it leads to people feeling like, oh, they're not wanted, or that they're not really, like, oh, well, I was told to be a part of an organization and I'm not even getting a response from them. So if it is IPL, I'll openly admit the way we've been doing staffing has been wrong up to this point, and it's definitely something we need to change. Now, did I see you put out a free agent TO post, like, yesterday?
Yes, that was me.
Yes. I will say this: that did not go unnoticed, and there were some people that were like, "Hey, we should look into that." I've heard your name come up quite a bit in very positive ways when it comes to TOing. So if you don't hear from someone, you should soon. Let me just say that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say I do appreciate all the people who boosted that post on Blue Sky. They've gotten one person to reach out so far, so that's great. But yeah, like I said, I just think we need we need ways to connect the prospective TOs with the orgs.
Yeah.
And
You
make
know,
it
kind of
simpler.
like I've
And
been saying, it comes down to
just to go back,
approachability.
just like one last thing about the IPL applications, like
Sure.
just like a response, It's like, hey, we're not looking for staff at this point, Like that's enough for me. Like, or if you just want to say like, no, don't ever talk to me or my son ever again. That's fine too.
That was,
But it's like applying for jobs. You
yeah,
never hear back.
exactly.
That's
Well,
really
hey,
all I'm asking for.
that is thank you for coming
Thank you for
on
having me on.
and sharing that, and you call in anytime.
Thank you.
There we go. Good stuff being dropped out here. That's why I'm always saying we at IPL can sit here and talk about everything other people are doing wrong. We're part of the problem, if not the main part of the problem. I'll openly admit that. Penn State University Blue. Who are you for real?
I am Vapor.
Vapor, okay.
I am the Expulsor player for Penn State Blue.
Yes,
I am
we know who you are, Vapor.
All right.
All you had to do was say, I'm Vapor. We got the rest of it. We know. You annoy all of us with your Explosh.
My bad.
I don't think you care. But what do you got?
You're right. I don't really in half the cases, but but I want to throw out the general idea that went around the community a little bit, and I actually made a post of my own after doing some research with CKK on a stream I did last night, where like it's not to throw shame at, oh, we have too many tournaments, because all the tournaments that we do have, as previously stated, either uniquely fill a gimmick or is just choose whichever one you want the most from, which is a fair place to say. But I believe that we are at a point now that we have hit every single year, and going through the data CKK and I went over last night, we found 2 major dips in events in February of 2024 and July of 2024, where both of those months only had 2 notable events to be played.
February 24?
Yeah.
That was around the time Genesis, but I don't think I can't quite recall what was going on then.
February 24, the only ones that CKK and I found was In the Zone and the Sendoku finale, with Genesis being a part of January.
Oh, okay. And what year of July did you say that was?
24. This is the data I'm gathering is all from 2024.
So the July one, that'd be Super Jump, correct?
Super Jump was not in July. That was in June.
It was in June. Okay. June, July, it's the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. So the general idea with July only have 2 events itself, being In the Zone and Black Lotus Cup 1. So with that, I believe we are going to be in another situation that is quite similar. Looking through spring, we had a lot of events going on in spring of 2024, with many events in April, another additional 6 major events in May, with 2 of those being LANs, on top of Ludi running at a similar time frame, and CCA. Some events try to run across with some additional leeway after all that follow-up hype. With events like Super Jump, there were a few fry baskets there as well, with a Mode Cup in June. But then we get to July and the middle of the summer, where people were like, where are all the events? And I believe we are at that high point right now, where naturally everything will end up slowing back down, and we're going to be again at a point like we were previously on, where are the events at currently, especially the major notable ones.
Well, again, I'm not going to leak anything here, but I'll say within about a week or so, that narrative might die off for at least a little bit. Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go from there. Okay. Well, Vapor, thanks for coming on. We are Penn State.
We are Penn State.
No, we are, unless we're not. Appreciation Collective, and then Z, and then Healthy Diet Food Groups, and we'll call it a day. What you got, Appreciation Collective?
I don't know. I guess I'm like a minor question, more
Sure.
so. You mentioned you didn't like the idea of like having special badges or like a signature saying like this was a major at the time. Why is that?
Because it's just a rotating thing. I mean, I don't see much value in that, and also because the person who commissioned it paid the same price for their badge to be created as every other one. Why do you think it should be?
I mean, I didn't even think about it like from the tournament organizer's perspective. That just like I don't know. So that's like completely valid. My main thing is like in my brands, like it's way I don't know. It's just like kind of the problem that was like discussed way back with like the colonel like army soldier with like 1,000 badges pinned to their profile. It's just like it would be cooler to be able to like signify the difference of like a in the zone versus like a other kind of small tournament.
Well, here's why I bring up that there shouldn't be distinctions, or at least at this time, is two reasons. One, how do you determine what is and ain't a tournament that should be distinctive? And two, who is the person that's going to be deciding that? Is it going to be IPL running everything? Because if that's the case, SOS is going to be way bigger than a tournament that might be a little bit more significant than that. So it's like who's going to be controlling the narrative of what tournament badges is and isn't important is why I'm kind of against that idea.
Alright, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that's probably it for me. I guess like also it goes in the problem of just like if an SOS is like a small, it's less significant than like a big SOS or something. So I mean like that makes sense naturally.
All right. I'm all for
Yeah,
making
see you next
sense.
year or something.
See you
Yeah.
next year. I'll be pushing 36 next year. I don't know about that. Z, what you
Hello.
got?
So I actually had like a similar take to what you had like before you changed, but I think now, um, the thing is, uh, we're us bigger TOs than these smaller orgs are getting upset because we've kind of gotten a bit complacent, and
Yes.
we and all of us need to, all of us from the smaller TOs to the big TOs, we need to start doing bigger things and innovating from new formats, new production options, better commentary. I think a lot of it is we're just mad that we can't get free teams because our time slots the only D5 cap tournament of the week or the only D7 cap tournament of the week. And I actually am glad you talked about this today because I actually changed my mind from yesterday because I went on a little rant about since ITO FTAU the other D7 caps, but I think now I'm realizing that we have to do something to set us apart from these other tournaments, um, to um, retain our teams or quote unquote retain, and just make a better product, which
I'm not
is overall going to be better for the scene.
I'm not saying you do this at all, but whenever I see somebody talking openly about there needs to be less tournaments, and that person is also a TO for a regular tournament that's like bigger or more well known, to me it comes across as that person suggesting that when they run a tournament, everybody else pause and stop and everybody sign up for my tournament, even though you probably enjoyed playing in a different tournament from mine. I should have a monopoly on this time slot. And even though that's not the intent of other TOs, it can't be lost on you that that's how it gets interpreted by people who may or may not feel comfortable speaking out about that. So that's why I've kind of like went on my rant a little bit earlier. But I guarantee you in like private circles, people make those kinds of comments. Cause like if I'm thinking about it and I'm a part of IPL, there's got to be a ton of people outside of it that are thinking the same thing.
Definitely.
Z, you call in anytime, obviously, and Maybe you and I could come up with something in the future. Hint, hint.
Maybe.
A lot of
Hint,
hints. A lot of hints getting dropped around here. What's going on? Actually, I said healthy diet would be the last one. We'll bring on Anon because I think they are the TO of the Moo Moo Cup tournament that I gave some praise to just for having a cow. Healthy diet food groups. Piccolo, what's up?
I'm outside walking to lab, so there might be cars, but I am Evie. I play for healthy diet food groups. How mean am I allowed to be?
Don't drop any F-bombs. I don't want to turn on the adult filter, but be like
Okay.
as blunt as you
Okay,
want. I
okay.
guess.
I think I have a unique perspective on what I want happening right now. I don't think I'm top level, but I see all this discussion happening and I go and I look at like tournaments being run and I look this week and it's like, wow, the only one I want to play is the one that's happening right now, except half my team can't play. That's a different reason. And it's like, I want to play tournaments that I'll see people like Moonlight or better FT Win sign up for. And that's not really happening, save for the few tournaments like the Megalodon Monday. I know Moonlight was signed up, and ITZs they always show up, and like the season finale, we always try to qualify because we know then we're guaranteed to end up against those teams. And I don't think having something like a circuit, like I know people have put out there, will help with that all that much. Personally, because playing circuits is time consuming and it's hard to schedule with 16-year-olds. And for most other tournament formats, I'd say we would be willing to play in more of them other than just double elim if TOs were harsher about time constraints.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because there's a lot of times where we'll hear from a quote unquote top level player and they'll say, well, I want this. And this is what everybody wants because I know they all want that. But then you'll hear somebody else be like, actually, I don't want that. I want something completely different. So I don't trust like one generic post that's like, this is what everybody's been saying they've been wanting. Why hasn't nobody created this? And it's like, well, why haven't you created it? But I can say this. I don't want to spoil anything again, but I feel like, let me just say this. There'll be something coming that I think you'll be interested in. And you can DM me and tell me, no, I'm not interested in this when it comes out. How about that?
All right.
I've tried to be as vague and weird as possible, and I'm successful. Hey, when I saw you at Riptide, you hinted at possibly healthy diet going to Riptide. Is there any update on that?
Not really, to be honest.
Make it happen.
It depends on. I
You
know
guys get
we're working
podium.
on it.
You can upset Moonlight.
It's not me. It's trying to convince the younger dude's parents. So, and then from there, and then it's like in layers. I want to go like for sure. One of our other members doesn't want to go unless the other guy wants to go, who doesn't want to go unless we're all going. And it's like, all right, well, this is a pain in the ass.
All right.
Well, I'm trying.
Keep trying. We'll see. I'll see you there regardless. All right, get out of here. Anon's last one. Sorry, Froppy. We're just moving on. Anon.
Hello.
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 I'm very happy you like the cow. The cow. This whole tourney. I feel like from a standpoint of adding a new tourney into the already oversaturation, it feels like you got to put a lot of effort into doing what it's got to have at the start of it. Like I've got a stream ready. I've got like a load of overlays. I've got commentators. I've got a cow. Like I put so much effort into this just so it doesn't seem like another one of those small tourneys that get like eight or 10 teams, if you know what I mean. It feels like I got to put a lot more effort into it. Like, this has been in the work for like 3 weeks now. Like, it's been in the works for a long time.
What is your definition that would make this tournament successful? Like, what do you need to see to be like, yes, I need to do another Moo Moo Cup?
What I need to just see just something more than what I see with other tournaments, if you know what I mean. I can't really explain it because I'm not great at explaining things. But this, I just want to see something different that comes of a result from this. Like, I want to see something like, it won't be like the Gauntlet, but something like that, because I got talk about it. But like, if I don't know how to explain it.
Well, why don't you just run the first tournament and then you let us know how it goes and what you would want to do differently for next time. But regardless, good luck to you. You're competing
Thank you.
against some other stuff, I know, but you at least seem to have an idea of like, oh, what you're getting into and what you want to try to accomplish. So
Yeah, I'm running a format I'm used to because I head TO all for one, so I know what groups is. I
Oh.
know how to run that efficiently.
So you're not.
So
this isn't your first time TOing.
no,
You're
this
just
is not
kind
my
of
first. This is
first
not my
time
first.
trying something new, essentially.
It's something new.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, good luck to you, and
Thank you.
let's talk to that. All right, that's gonna do it for today's episode of the Popcast. Froppy, Stara, sorry. It's bath time, so we need to wrap this up. If you'd like to be a part of the Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out to my socials below, YouTube at 25 Popgun, Blue Sky at Popgun, Discord at Popgun. Don't ask me if you're banned from Low Ink or not. Those are the DMs I don't enjoy. But if you want to talk about like general TOing stuff, DM me. But if the conversation switches over into, hey, are you can you tell me if I'm banned from Low Ink or not? That is a no. All right, GG's, goodbye. Get vaccinated, stay safe, wear a mask when applicable, and we'll see you Friday with the Low Ink pre-show, 3 o'clock. Good night.